Malawi gained her independence in 1964 from the British Central African Protectorate, having barely survived the racist, repressive colonial system starting in 1891. Malawi is a large subtropical country with an area of just under 119,000 square kilometers, having limestone, arable land, hydropower, and unexploited deposits of uranium, coal, and bauxite as its natural resource. The country's population is close to 21 million as of 2022, is largely Christian, has a small Muslim population of around 14%, is ethnically tribal, with the dominant tribes being the Chiwa, Lomwi, Yao, Ngoni, and Tumbuka. The commonly spoken languages are English, which is also the official language, and Chiwa, spoken by the majority tribe. The capital is Lilongwe, and elections to the National Assembly's 193 seats are directly elected by simple majority vote to serve a 5-year term. Economically, Malawi is one of the poorest countries in Africa. It is a low-income East African economy, primarily agrarian, rain-fed subsistence farming, with over 80% of the population dependent on unprofitable agriculture. Agriculture products comprise sweet potato, cassava, sugarcane, maize, mangoes, guavas, potatoes, tomatoes, pigeon peas, bananas, and plantains. The industries are namely tobacco, tea, sugar, sawmill products, cement, and some consumer goods. Exports are estimated at 1.116 billion in 2019, while imports for the same period were about 3.2 billion. The most recent exchange rate was $1 to about 1,000 Malawian kwachas. The country was badly affected by COVID-19, high public debt, endemic corruption, and a poor infrastructure network. The population below the poverty line was estimated to be over half the country's population of 21 million in 2016, while in 2019 an estimated 17% of the country was in hunger. Recent country events will have impacted an increase in these numbers. Hi, good morning. This is an upfront interview with the Poverty Agenda with Naila Abishora, who is globally known to be a creative activist, outcome and impact-oriented technical expert and management professional, with a track record of consistently achieving effective community-based approaches as a strategic partner and influencing director. She has a long list of achievements in developing quality-embedded, result-oriented strategies. For over 25 years, she has strived to ensure the need for continuous improvement in program quality and its delivery while encouraging learning with a focus on mainstreaming of child rights, child protection, and gender equality. Thank you for joining us, Naila. And is there something you'd like to say to our audience before we start?
Yeah, thank you, Akil. And I am really happy to be part of this, discussion and this interview as part of the poverty agenda. And I think it is very important to share our long, actually, years, on development and how we can work together in order to improve, our society, to improve the situation for the girls, children, and women and youth in our countries and in our region. So I am happy to be part of this study.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, we are happy that you're engaging. I think my first question to you is poverty continues because its root cause is not effectively addressed by the government, private sector, and charities. I mean, in general, what do you think about that statement?
Actually, when we talk, and look for poverty, despite all the efforts at different level, actually poverty is increasing, and actually the risk of many, lagging behind children right, girl right, women right, and youth rights. So for me, yes, poverty is existing, but unfortunately, it's taking many other actually serious, symptoms. When you look for even the developing countries and the countries, such as Sudan, now is taking a very complicated actually phase. Yes, when we look for poverty, we look for the basic rights of education, of food, health, even skills, knowledge, information. But now actually is going beyond that by even uh, happening the conflict even within the existing structure, tribal conflict, injustice. Actually, despite the effort, actually, poverty is increasing and also it started to appear in a different, actually critical phase, which affect actually the life of the people. When we talk about conflict, if it is tribal or if it is political or even in economic resources,
Sure.
now it become more serious when we talk actually about poverty and its symptoms that appearing in countries such as Sudan.
Yeah, no, that's very insightful. Um, I had a question that you've talked about all these challenges, but then what are the primary challenges faced in achieving project goals to eliminate something like hunger? I mean, even in Sudan, there is a large population that goes hungry every day. What are the challenges that face everybody, government and families and communities, in trying to eliminate this challenge?
I think one of most actually critical actually barriers actually start from even planning, how are we going to tackle, for example, poverty, focusing, for example, on hunger. So we need to stop actually top-down type of planning. We need to start, at the grassroots level and understand, the barriers, the underlying causes at the household level, at the community level, and let them also part of that process. Because from their side also, they will tell us some of the reason and the barriers which we don't know even as a technical expert, at the national level or regional or global level. This is number one. The second one also, we need also to let them be part of the process of that analysis. Because by putting them in that analysis, it really going to reinforce their ownership for the issues that they are facing at their household, families, and grassroots level. If they are like owning, those underlying causes, for sure, they will be more committed, and accountable to respond actually for those underlying causes. Because when we talk generally, about what is the underlying causes, for poverty, extent are we using or involving the grassroots in the analysis and in the planning of tackling even the hunger or poverty, if we talk about national strategy, like in Sudan. The second one also, I think it has to do also to look for the social structure. I am not saying that the social structure is against like any development, rather than to understand that structure in order to benefit from it, to be one of the key players in addressing those underlying. And I think the third actually core barriers for me, I can say also it did contribute even for poverty, is educational. Are we, giving our children, our youth, our girls, our women, the right education that helps them, to be more conscious about problem in their families, in their communities when we talk about poverty, and give them, equip them, with the skills and knowledge in order to fight, poverty, to fight hunger, at their community level or not.
Yeah.
Because in most cases, actually, the education, system and the education content and the education even delivery, it work actually towards more elite, type of people, formulating new, I don't want to say like educated people, which they are separated actually from their family and grassroots and rural actually context. So this is one of the area. The fourth area, I think also we need, to involve our people in decision making. When we talk about, fighting hunger or fighting, economic crisis, or even fighting poverty as a whole, unless we involve them, unless them have the skills and the knowledge and the information to be more capable in playing a role in responding to those underlying causes.
No, that's great. Thank you. Thank you very much. 17% of the population in Malawi was in hunger in 2019. Malawi faces severe localized food insecurity due to reduced incomes and shortfalls in cereal production. Almost 2 million people faced crisis levels of food insecurity between January and March 2022. Underpinned by localized shortfalls in cereal production and the lingering impact of an economic downturn due to the COVID-19 pandemic. A decline in cereal production in 2022, particularly in southern districts, and increasing food prices are expected to lead to an increased prevalence of food insecurity in the last quarter of 2022 and into 2023. The worsening of food insecurity conditions is attributed to the forecasted slow economic growth in 2022, underpinned by the lingering effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and the country's elevated debt levels in 2022. Though Malawi's economy is seen to be steadily improving, Malawi faces several social problems, including poverty, where over 50% of the population lives below the poverty line, a high HIV/AIDS infection rate, and is very sensitive to climate change, resulting in flooding from continuous and heavy rainfalls, which makes the most vulnerable of the population, those living in rural areas and whose livelihoods are based on subsistence farming, all the more susceptible to extreme hunger. A shocking observation reported by Stephen Devereaux on the Malawi famine of 2002, as published in IDS's Bulletin Volume 33, states that the number of people who died in 2002 of hunger and starvation in Malawi, in the absence of official statistics, but based on lists of the dead collected by civil society groups, suggests that a figure in the range of 1,000 to 3,000 deaths was the accurate estimate. Rapid population growth and high population density are putting pressure on Malawi's land, water, and forest resources. Reduced plot sizes and increasing vulnerability to climate change further threaten the sustainability of Malawi's agriculturally based economy and will worsen food shortages. About 80% of the population is employed in agriculture. Production shortfalls in cereal production adversely impact food prices. Agriculture accounts for about 1/3 of GDP and 80% of export revenue. The performance of the tobacco sector is key to short-term growth as tobacco accounts for more than half of exports, although Malawi is looking to diversify away from tobacco to other cash crops. Heavily dependent on rain-fed agriculture, with corn being the staple crop, Malawi's economy was hit hard by the El Niño-driven drought in 2015 and 2016, and now faces threat from the fall armyworm. The drought also slowed economic activity and led to 2 consecutive years of declining economic growth. The biggest problem in Malawi is that while more than 2/3 of the population lives in extreme poverty, almost all of them rely on small-scale farming for their livelihoods and cannot afford to apply better tools and technologies and improved seeds, as they simply do not have the money to invest. The FCO states that while most visits to Malawi are trouble-free, it suggests travelers take sensible precautions to protect themselves from muggers and bag snatchers. The political situation may result in spontaneous demonstrations related to governance and economic issues, and to avoid them. The Integrated Household Survey of 1997-98 indicates that around 65% of the population is poor and cannot meet their food requirements and basic non-food needs annually. Thus, The specific objective of the Malawian government's food security policy is to guarantee that all men, women, boys, and girls, especially under fives in Malawi, have at all times physical and economic access to sufficient nutritious food required to lead a healthy and active life.
Laile, laile, laile.